So I know we've yeah, we've gotten into a lot in terms of what happens, I guess, behind the curtain. I want
Yeah.
to kind of bring it back because prior to the show, you talked about you have a little bit of a working theory on how you think that going into federal court, you don't necessarily think class action is going to be challenging because of what it takes to certify a class, but you believe that there was a method or a way where multiple individuals could go in
Yeah.
together
Yeah.
when constitutional issues arise. Do you want to kind of talk us through what your
Yeah.
working theory is on that?
And so I'll give you just a brief history because I've researched all of these on the history of basic class action lawsuits involving unconstitutional policies and practices. Okay. The first one that I'm aware of is a case that everyone should be aware of if you want to research and you want to be a student on this issue. There's a case from the Sixth Circuit in 1980 called Parker versus Turner. And that was a case where a group, I believe, I might be mixing these cases wrong, but I think it was a group of Tennessee fathers that challenged the Tennessee child support system, the child support scheme. Basically, they all got together and they filed this, and they got up, and the Sixth Circuit abstained in that case. But there are a lot of things, and it's not really even relevant law now, but that is an example where that got up, and the Sixth Circuit didn't, their case got dismissed, but it was like, if the state courts are proving unwilling to do something about this, then we'll hear it. The problem that happened in that case is that the plaintiffs didn't actually go through the state appellate court process at all, or challenge that, anything that had happened. They just basically went right into federal court. I saw another case in Florida a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, where there was another class action involving, family law related issues. So they were able to get in. The most recent one that I think is the one that another case that your viewers should be aware of is a case called Allen versus DeBello from the Third Circuit, which was from 2017. It was brought by an attorney in New Jersey by the name of Paul Clark. And Paul's still in contact with people in the northeast part of the country. But what Paul did is Paul got about 10 people together, all fathers that had gone through horrendous things, similar things, not having hearings on motions, not having their rights just completely violated, just everything, all these problems. They got together and he combined them into a complaint, and it was fine. He was challenging a statute, and he was challenging all these unwritten customs and practices, and there wasn't an issue. They litigated jurisdictional issues, sort of what I did in the Seventh Circuit, and there were a few. They made a mistake that caused them to get dismissed, but they got to they brought their claims to the Third Circuit. It was sufficient pleading in the complaint. So you don't. I don't think you necessarily need a class action. You just need 10 people that have had relatively common experiences. It doesn't have to be the same experiences, but relatively common, where you can legitimately state that I'm bringing this on behalf of myself and as well as people similarly situated.
And I mean, hey, here's the cool thing about that as we further kind of develop theories like that. 20 years ago, you didn't have Facebook groups with 50, 60,000 people. You didn't have resources. The Fathers' Rights Movement probably in January is going to eclipse 700,000 followers. There, you can find individuals that have experienced similar things. So that I think that's the cool part. And I think that's part of what's moving kind of our movement forward is the ease of access to people with similar stories.
Right. And so what I think would have to happen, sorry. So in each district, you would have to find people, and you could have multiple counties. So let's say in Northern District of Illinois, we've got, maybe 6 or 7 counties. We've got Cook and surrounding counties. You could potentially in one suit bring in multiple counties. So what you have is one person in, let's say, Lake County suing the chief judge of the Lake County in their official capacity. You've got the chief judge of Cook County in their official capacity. You've got, DuPage County, and not all of them are going to have the same problems, but there's common elements. And so I think you have the ability to bring in the actions of, the systemic unconstitutional practices of multiple counties into one single suit in a particular district. But I don't see how we could have a multi-district class action. I don't think that that's possible at all. And I think the movement needs to walk away from that.
Yeah. And I mean, you think about it, it's one of those things where I can think about even outside of, obviously I talk to dads all over California on a daily basis, but you would be surprised, and I'm sure you get some of this too, Ted, the number of, I mean, I feel like 4 times a week someone from Houston, Texas reaches out to me with a similar story, or someone from Chicago or Miami or whatever it may be. And so I think that, I mean, I think all of this is a snowball. Once this happens once or twice, it's going to be something that when these type of suits get filed, hey, you cite this law and it may not hold precedent. They may not be required to follow it. But if you have 3 districts and a circuit or 2 that are following this, it's going to be very compelling, and hopefully it's going to reduce the friction in getting through court and getting a ruling that's in favor of
And
what
look,
we want.
and what happens, Mark, and you know this full well from your experience in California. I can tell you what it is in Illinois. Is that the fathers groups? I mean, we've got, Casey and Fathers Rights Movement doing amazing organizational work. Other people doing amazing organizational work. But who's the counterparty between the judiciary and us? Okay, we're just a big swarm of people, and so by bringing suit, I mean, I think that the way you communicate it to the press and the public when you bring the suit is, we just want to talk. We want to talk. There's no listening sessions. I used to work for a U.S. senator. He did listening centers in every county in Wisconsin. Okay, there's no listening sessions in Cook County amongst the judiciary and the fathers and the public, the people that are actually undergoing this. They're more than happy to talk to the lobbyists with the Illinois State Bar Association, but who's actually talking to us? And so by bringing these suits, I think that is a tool where, they're compelled, they have to attend court, they're going to have to file a motion to dismiss and try to throw you out. You're going to cause them a headache. But in the meantime, it might give you an opportunity to be very diplomatic and say, why aren't you people talking to us about this? We're talking to you about things that are fundamental to a system of justice that you aren't following, and we're tired of it. We're tired of walking into court without a motion pending and walking out not seeing our kids based on nonsense and lies. That's not asking for a lot.
Yeah, that's very, very, very true. And I think that the diplomatic way of going about it would, number one, if it works, it makes things happen a lot quicker, and it's a lot cheaper. And in theory, if it's a diplomatic solution, you're not going to spend years defending it. It's once you come to that resolution, it's going to be resolved. Where I think we see it now in the mainstream media. Roe v. Wade, settled law for 50 years, and now it's under attack in terms of what it's going to mean moving forward. So I think that diplomatic piece for anybody, whether you're dealing with a state legislator, it is a listening session, whether you're able to have conversations with someone of influence, coming at it with the proverbial olive branch and being diplomatic about it is probably going to get you further than the fire and brimstone. We're going to vote you out. You're screwed. You're going to be getting hate emails for the next decade.
Or we're going to sue you, right? That's the other thing. Or we're going to sue you. But the bottom line is that we are not going to get anywhere in changing this if we cannot credibly sue them. We have to be able to credibly sue them, and we can't sue them in their own system. It has to be in the federal. The federal courts are. Don't anyone out there think that these federal courts, well, we've got jurisdiction, so we'll take these cases. They're doing everything that they can to keep these cases from being heard in federal court because they don't want it either. They know how much of a can of worms and what this smoking pile of despair and abuse that has happened to so much of this population is boiling over. Okay, I mean, this is the anger of fathers is boiling over, and these people have to know that. And if they're smart, like any politician, they take proactive measures, sit down and talk this out. But if they don't do that, then absolutely we have to sue them.
Yeah, well, 100%. And like you said, I think in a big picture capacity, the lawsuit could bring them to the table.
Right.
and bring them to conversations, because candidly, I've had conversations with some politicians here in California, and I whip out a book that I have some just different materials, different things in, and they're in shock. They had no idea any of this occurred. I know I've been on calls with some legislators all over this country over the last 6 weeks, leading into next year, and they want to know what's it like in courts. And a lot of times they're absolutely shocked. A lot of time in the states that have been successful, in Arkansas, their bill was sponsored by an attorney who stood up to his peers and said, "This ain't what's happening in court.
Right.
Here's what's really going down." In many of the states, it's one state in particular, not super public yet, so I won't drop names. But the two or three individuals that are involved in getting this bill out there this year are all fathers who have been through the system. So they understand that what's written and what on its face is fair and equitable is not what happens when you step into that family courthouse.
Yeah. Well,
So I think educating those people is big.
yeah, and part of this is that we have to brush these people off, because what is happening is that the state is coming in and declaring war on fathers. War. I mean, when you're going into court, dragged in, and your rights are violated, and you're back and forth, and child support, and contempt motions, and alleged incarceration, and driver's license suspension, and all this stuff, where you're going broke just trying to be a father. That is the state declaring war on you. And that is what is happening, and that the state has to be brushed off. We have a statute, 42 USC 1983, the Civil Rights Act, because and the Supreme Court in prior cases, which I can cite, have stated that the Civil Rights Act, the federal 42 USC 1983, is to protect when the state itself becomes an instrument in the abuse of power. And that's what's happening. That's what we have federal laws for. The federal courts, nor the states want to confront this, but it has to happen, because this is going to boil over. Like when you say the cases, they don't even have the ability to hear these cases. You get more and more of these cases building up, and so much injustice, and so much absolute just pillaging of innocent parents and children by these attorneys, and in this process. Ruinous. It is a war, and the state declaring war. Just a guy showing up to court. Hey, I just want to be a dad. No, we're going to destroy you instead. That is what's happening.
Yeah, 100%. And I know it's out there. I'm actually we're hoping for a February or March release date. In the process of the working title right now of the book I'm working on a few people with is The War on Dad.
Yeah,
and that's truly what we're seeing right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a war. It's primarily a war on dads. Like I said, I don't want to any women who are watching this that have gone through these types of things. Ted and I will both stand on the milk crate and say this happens to men and women. It's indiscriminate. It just so happens to happen to dads at about an 80 to 90% clip compared to the 10-20 it happens to women. But no, that's for me. That's the perfect statement. Is this truly is a war on dads?
And I don't talk. I don't always talk about my own case, but I'll tell you my own personal experience in the last few months is that I'm fighting to see my children with stage 4 pancreatic cancer diagnosis. And I'm sorry. That's we talk. I was talking to a guy yesterday on the phone. He's like, you got to talk about this is sexism. This is sexism. And I said, no, I'm not going to use that term sexism, because sexism and I think in our usage and vocabulary is, let's say, walking past a girl and tapping her butt, or saying, oh, demeaning, oh, hey, little girl, or something like that. That's sexism. Or not paying someone a full wage where a man's being, that is it. But when you're ripping out the fundamental existence of their fundamental rights as a parent and a person, and demeaning them and attacking them, and just constantly, that's not sexism. That's bigotry. And I feel strongly about this. Is that when you're talking about the war on fathers, there maybe needs to be a new term, about what this kind of insidious discrimination and bias is. That there is bigotry amongst these people that think, wait a second, this guy's got cancer. He may have months to live, and we're twiddling our fingers whether he should be spending time with his kids, that is bigotry. And we are confronted with that, and we have to be honest about it.
That's
But we don't even care if you're alive or dead. I mean, that is how low the war on fathers has gotten.
Yeah, that is. I don't think it could be put any better. That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're fighting against. It's been an uphill battle, but I think that we're getting close to. We've obviously had some breakthroughs. I think we're getting close to even more. But I think your monologue there is a great place for us to kind of wrap up today. Ted, I want to thank you for coming on again. It's always a pleasure. And I know you mentioned your medical stuff. I know you got some big stuff coming up, so you're definitely in my thoughts and prayers. And I know you have the support of this community behind you, because we absolutely do need you. So I hope that everything you got going on through the first of the year goes as planned, and we get to see you out the other side of this.
And everything
viewers,
that you do, everything that you and Casey and Ken Rosa and everyone that you got, amazing work. You have my attention every single day.
Thank you. That's much appreciated.